Hey, look at that. It's 9 o'clock on the East Coast. That means it's time for This Week at Gear Report, the show where we talk about everything we published since last week, things that are upcoming in the review queue, and probably our most popular segment. We call it Shit Shooting. But tonight we have a special guest from mymedic.com. I'm going to click the button. I'm bringing him in. Here he comes. Hello, Lady Jeff.
How's it going, guys?
It's going okay. I got to be honest with you. I didn't know if this was going to happen on time this evening. I have been having network issues that resolve themselves about 5 seconds before I hit the button to go live. So if anything falls or I get all robot, if it falls off or I start roboting real bad, understand that we have been having network issues here at Gear-Report headquarters. So, but I got to be honest, I got it better than TJ. I'm going to assume you do as well because TJ is in Florida. And when I checked in with him a little while ago, he said the house is not underwater, so that's good. But they did not have power. They did not have internet, and the cell phone signal was incredibly spotty and iffy. So, that and he was, a full bottle of bourbon into his hurricane ritual. So I'm fairly certain that TJ will not be joining us on the
Gotcha.
program this evening. If he does, it's probably dangerous given that he's a full bottle of bourbon into the hurricane ritual. Okay. So Honcho Fed is out there. And Zeph, I don't know if you're aware of this. We have a tradition here. We have a number of traditions, but one is the appropriate greeting on This Week at Gear Report is 3 yos. Honcho Fett is in stellar form this evening with the appropriate greeting.
Love it.
We don't always get the appropriate greeting, but that's that's what we got so far. All right. So let's see. We talked about maybe depending on how long the show goes, you may need to check out before we're done. So why don't we get right into, how about this? We're going to come back to the other agenda items. So we
Sure.
typically start with recently published reviews. We move on to the upcoming reviews. Then we get into the shit shooting portion. Whenever we don't have something else on the screen, I like to put Boo ATF up there just because it makes me happy.
There you go.
We may skip the Guitar Mageddon portion of the program tonight. We'll have to see how that goes because we're going to dive right now into your brand. So why don't you tell us a little bit about let's see. Let's start with who you are and why
Sure.
you're here, right? And
Yep.
then if you can give us some background on MyMedic and
Totally.
scope of products and ideal customers, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So my name's Zeph Prina. I'm the community marketing manager over at MyMedic. Been with the company for about 2 years now. Jeff and I met last year at SHOT Show. I had a man bun last year, Jeff, and it's gone. So you'll be happy to see me at SHOT this year without a man bun.
What am I going to pick on you for then? You know, that
You'll find something. There's
that
always
was
something.
it was such a ready-made item to kind of poke fun at that
It was low hanging fruit for sure,
it was. Yes.
especially in that crowd.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So, I don't know what to say about that. I had I'm looking at my notes here. I had like 5 man bun jokes all queued up and ready to slip them in as the show went, but I guess I don't get to use those now.
Yeah,
So,
pulled that one out from under the rug. But yeah, I've been at MyMedic about 2 years. I initially started actually in customer service, and then I had a brief stint on the inside sales team, and now I am on the marketing team, which is honestly where I think I belong. But that being said, it's been really, really awesome in the last 2 years, having been in multiple roles at the company. So on the customer facing side, I get to really able to understand the product and pain points were having, and resolving issues people have with the product, etc., and really getting
right.
to know who's using the product, and how it's being used. And then on the sales side, obviously working with retailers and that type of thing. So getting to understand people who are selling our product that isn't us, right? So RAI as well as like
Mhm.
Sportsman's, and
Right.
then your mom and pop gun shops and outdoor shops. And then now on the marketing side, really taking, I think, what I learned in both of those positions and really just be able to, get our product into people's hands, get in front of people via social media, email, SMS, you name it. So as the community marketing manager, really my responsibilities are setting up events, which is a shot show, outdoor retailer, those types of things, as well as a lot of community initiatives. So like earlier this year, I know you didn't get to make it, Jeff, but we had that affiliate creator camp out, and had a bunch of
Right.
people over to go
Yeah.
camping and that type of thing. And then I also am in charge of our affiliate and kind of influencer relationships. So help
Right.
manage the brand on that front.
All interesting stuff, and I'd forgotten about that camp out, and, it looked like a really cool event. Where did you do that? Because that's something that, well, I do wanna dive in and be sure people know about the brand here
Totally.
shortly, but that's something unusual. Like, I've been to a couple events. We go to a lot of events like SHOT Show where all sorts of
Hmm.
brands, they bring their booths, they set up, we walk around, we talk to people. We
Yeah.
go to firearms industry events where there may be a small subset of the SHOT Show brands, anywhere
Hmm.
from, 10 to 40 or 50 that set up, and often it's outdoor at a shooting range, and usually it's just media. Sometimes there will be public allowed in as well,
Hmm.
but I had not seen an event like that one before,
Sure.
where like it wasn't firearms related. It was, hey, come on a camping trip and we'll talk about
Yeah.
products and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. And it's the first time we've ever done anything like that. So we're based out of Salt Lake City, which obviously is a huge outdoor brand like hub, as well as
Mhm.
firearms. There's lots of firearms manufacturers here, as well as tons of firearms accessories, I should say. And so our brand it's really difficult because our product can be used in almost any demographic, audience type, you name it, right? So as much as I would love to host a range day and bring in our special ops guy and maybe like run some pistol courses or defensive rifle, and I hope to do that eventually, but currently in the infancy of those types of events, camping is a very apolitical, activity. Very easy to be like, hey guys, no matter what whether you're one of our firearms enthusiasts or you like to go adventuring or you're an overlander, this is easily something that everyone can get behind and just come have a good time with the brand, get to know the people who work behind the brand, as well as we were able to do some product training there as well. So Billy, who's our director of education, so he's an 18 Delta Special Forces combat medic, knows his stuff. We'll leave it at that. Really awesome to get a group of our brand ambassadors and people who love the brand and essentially promote the brand as part of their living or as part of their hobbies, um, and be able to teach them life-saving first aid with someone who is as qualified as Billy to really live our mission. And this will get into kind of what you had alluded to, Jeff, where you want to talk about the brand and how we got started and the mission. So our mission is to get life-saving first aid kits into the hands of as many people as possible. The reason that's our mission: we're a family-owned business. We're owned by four siblings. Their father was killed in a car accident in 2012, 2013. It's a very preventable death. It was a normal day on his way to work. Gets into this car accident, bleeds out in the front seat of his pickup truck, while bystanders kind of just stood by with no equipment, training, or competency to save his life. So it took EMS about 20-25 minutes to arrive, and obviously you can bleed out within under a minute depending on where you're hit or where the injury is. So the siblings basically took the money from the lawsuit and settlement. It wasn't, the father's fault that he'd gotten into the accident, and decided to start the company with, the goal of preparing the everyday citizen for the unexpected emergency. You know, we don't ever want anyone. It's weird. I always tell people we have a product and we hope you never have to use it, right? Especially some of the life saving things. But by and large, you're going to be getting in for Band-Aids and antibiotics and medications and the likes. So that's a little bit about who we are and what we do as a brand. And yeah, we're just all about getting first aid in people's hands. I can't hear you. You're speaking, Jeff, but I can't hear you.
Okay.
We're back. We're back.
And you can hear me?
I can.
That was bizarre.
No worries.
Everything I'd tip the camera and show you, but I'm afraid it would mess something up that I've got a little USB strip here that the
Yeah.
camera, the microphone, and the little USB portion for my wireless mouse all go into that, and
Hmm.
it quit working, and
Mm,
I couldn't get it back. So I could type because the mouse was already in the comment box,
nice.
but I couldn't do anything else, so I apologize for that.
It's all good. It happens.
Yeah, so, the beauty of a program like this, although it's live, I can always go back and edit and just clip that whole dead spot while I was rebooting
No worries. Yeah.
the computer out. So, let's see, Honcho Fett, chimed in. Big shout out to my medic. He has several kits. Well, that's awesome.
That's
And
great.
it's interesting that as a brand, I think I first heard about my medic on from AvantLink, where you've
Hmm.
got the affiliate program. I
Hmm.
saw it on there, and I think probably had some discussions with one of your predecessors at
Yep.
some point. Uh, but it was really, I guess, getting to meet you folks at Shot last year. I think was
Hmm.
the bigger kind of functional introduction. I think that one or more of the writers at Gear Report had done some reviews of My Medic products
Hmm.
in the year or two prior.
Yeah.
Um, but we're a kind of big and dispersed organization, so um, I'd love to say that everything that comes through Gear Report I get to put my hands on and get some personal experience with it. But Honcho maybe he got one of those sent to him. But regardless, he's in Texas, so I'm in North Carolina, so I don't get to put my hands on that stuff unless it comes
Yeah.
through the headquarters here.
Sure.
So let's see here if I can pull the screen up. We'll do that window. There we go.
There we are.
This is when I realized the mouse wasn't working before, is when I had this page up and ready to bring up. And as you got into that part of the story of the brand, I'm like,
Hmm. You're like,
I'm
uh-oh.
clicking, nothing's happening. Okay. So it's one of those stories that it it's nice to see something good come out of something terrible. Terrible
Yeah.
things are just we'd prefer they don't happen, but when they do, you can't take them back. Once it's happened, it's happened. So I
Hmm.
love when people take something tragic that we'd prefer didn't happen, but turn it into something. I'm going to call it something positive. So
Yeah.
the scope of the products here. Um, oh, where do you go? Okay. Working at the speed of my internet this evening. Let's talk
Yeah. You're
about
getting
the
a little
types of
robot-y.
products. So, um, and maybe some acronyms as well. Like most of the people in the audience probably know FAK, but if you want to go through what are the most common acronyms that you have and how
Yeah.
they apply to the different types of products, whether it be first
Totally.
aid kits or med packs or any of the other things.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And while you're
starting
talking
with the
about
first
that,
one.
I can kind of try to click on the appropriate things to show people.
Yeah, definitely. So starting with the first one, FAK typically stands for first aid kit, at least when we're talking about first aid. So we offer a couple of different products. We have first aid kits, med packs, and mods. first aid kits for us is just going to be, typically they're going to be in nylon or a hard case or some sort of faux leather. But typically these are going to be, full-blown first aid kits that are designed for specific purposes. So, for example, we've got a cycle medic, which is designed specifically for, most common cycling injuries. And that one's got some special fabrics and stuff so that it's waterproof and watertight and, rugged and can be put on a bike and take some abuse. But then we've got other options that are going to be what we call universal first aid kits. Those are going to be like your MyFac, your Sidekick, MyFac Large, MyFac Mini. Those are just going to be what I always say, it's better than the box store first aid kits. So these are going to be, going to cover you for a wide variety of injuries, whether it be minor or major. And then obviously you can get into the pro versions of these kits, which will cover life-saving. It will have life-saving equipment in them as well. But you're going to get things in there that most typical, like off-the-shelf first aid kits from Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, you name it, even some that you get at like an REI or like that, it's mostly crap. It's going to be, some Band-Aids, maybe some gauze if you're lucky, lots of triple antibiotic, and that's about it. The bandages are crap. The gauze is just so-so. So what we've tried to do is, make a first aid kit that covers those minor injuries, the things you're going to see most often, really well to a really elevated extent, right? So not only do we see ourselves as the best off-the-shelf first aid kit maker, but we've done a lot of work into the products inside the first aid kits as well to make sure that the experience you're having, no matter if it's with the product as a whole or down to the singular bandage level, that the product is going to be and the experience is going to be really elevated and really special and help you understand why we believe that we make the best first aid kits in the world. So those are going to be our first aid kits. We have tons of them. We have some specialty ones that are made for, the TFAC, which is like trauma first aid kits. That's specifically for gunshot wounds, stabbings, traumatic injuries, any sort of like puncture wounds. We've got a wound closure kit. So that's going to have everything you need in it to, close up a wound regardless. You name it, we make something for it. The next, kind of acronym or, brand language would be a med pack. So these are typically going to be basically in designed poly bags. They're basically Ziploc bags, resealable bags. And these are designed for specific purposes. So these will be either activity or injury specific. So we've got one that's specifically made for hiking. So that's going to cover the most common injuries you're going to find while you're out hiking. We've got some that are specifically made, again, like I said, specific injuries. So we've got one for blisters. We've got one for upset stomach. We've got one for headaches. And so what these allow people to do is a couple of things. You can supplement your first aid kit with these and kind of tailor and specialize it to the things that you most commonly see or activities and things you like to do. They also allow us to, offer elevated first aid to people at a much, much lower price point than our full-blown kits. Some of our kits get into the, hundreds of dollars. And for a lot of people, that's a lot of money to spend on a first aid kit if you don't know, right? But these, med packs are typically very small. What's up, Kent? And so you get to, get familiar with the MyMedic brand and our product at a much lower price point. All of the med packs are under $100, which is a lot more palatable to a lot of people who don't have that experience with paying some good money for first aid.
It's a neat idea with the sealed but resealable package.
Yep.
On these. Yeah, that's really, really clever, the way of kind of putting all this stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably talk offline about, or whenever. Since I'm doing it now, we can do it now. We worked with another company because there are a few kind of legit medical supply companies that do this type of thing, and then a whole bunch that are just like whatever the cheapest crap they can find, and they throw it in a generic pouch, and they call it a meg kit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we worked with one on a specific kit for. I do a lot of work with Scouts, the Boy Scouts of America organization,
Yeah.
and run a group for taking Scouts out to Philmont Scout Ranch, one of the high adventure bases,
Cool.
and we built a kit specifically for that with another company. But we've also got we could put together we could design another kit, see what you guys' take on it is on another kit
Sure.
for Philmont treks, which would be, a week to 12 days in the backcountry with moderately experienced or inexperienced people. And then they have
Yeah.
Northern Tier, which is like canoe camping, that kind of thing. Sea Base in
Yeah.
Florida, which is like out on sailboats in the salt
Mm-hmm.
water. Um, and then Summit in West Virginia is kind of a big multi-use outdoor facility. So there are some really neat opportunities that we could explore if you're into that type of thing as a
Really.
brand, coming up with some custom kits to maybe market to those crowds.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this and thinking, man, that is sure a convenient way to package things,
Yeah.
especially this hiker one, because, I don't want a big molly pack when I'm backpacking. I want as light and minimalist as possible. And this
Yep.
is a pretty tight way to do it.
Yeah, it's really great. I do a lot of backpacking and backpack hunting mostly myself, and the hiker is what I take. It's really good because it's super light. It also comes in that poly bag, so it's already waterproof. So if I have to, leave it out, or I get rained on,
Mhm.
which happened to me on my mule deer hunt this year. I got
Yeah.
snowed on, and I was glad I had a kit because I ended up really badly cutting my finger while I was field dressing my deer.
Mm.
But B, I wasn't too worried because I was able to, pull out the gauze and stuff that I needed. But then I was able to just leave that bag out while it was snowing because it's waterproof.
Yeah.
So really great way to, shave some ounces and, keep your gear safe and out of the elements. The last brand sort of hot phrase or hot word I would mention is the mods, which you'll see there at the top. Yeah. So these are really awesome. No other first aid company that I'm aware of is doing something like this, and I think it's really innovative. Partially, I'm partially biased because I helped design this system in my my first 6 months at my medic. But what our mods are just that. So mod is short for modular. These are what we use to build a lot of our first aid kits, and we've broken them down into color categories. So we call it like the rescue rainbow or the
Ah,
my medic rainbow. So
sure.
after you get through the little bit of the learning curve with the color categories, you're able to find what you need inside your kit very quickly. So the black top means that it's a tool or a device, so you're going to have whistle, tweezers, pen light,
Right.
etc. Purple is going to be sprains and fracture supplies, so finger splint, Sensi wrap, elastic ace bandage. Obviously, red is going to be stuff for blood. That's kind of intuitive. Um, but what is really cool about this, not only does it help you have a really good and easy way to find things and organize your kit, but if you use things within that mod, you can just come back and reorder that specific mod and
Right.
replace it in your kit and basically have it like it was the day you got it in the mail. So that's been really great for us, not only for again the organization, but also being able to reorder things very easily when you use them has been really beneficial. And I think a lot of customers have really liked it. Once there is that little bit, once they get over that learning curve, right? A lot of first aid kits, and even ours prior to this system, are just in like clear little plastic bags. And those are great because you can see what's in them. But once you put
Mhm.
4 or 5 clear plastic bags on top of each other, you can't tell. You get to the point where you can't tell what's in each bag because they're
Yeah.
it's all transparent, right? So we've kind of gone away from that and moved to and these are like semi-transparent. They all also on the backside will tell you exactly what's inside of them in the quantities that
Yeah.
they come in. So we really like that system, and production wise, it's made things super easy logistically for us as well.
Well, yeah, and I would think for the customers as well. But so mini wound closure mod for 595. So
Hmm.
I'm one of the most thrifty people you're going to run across, right?
Hmm.
So when I needed to put together some first aid kits a few years ago, again, working with scouts.
Sure.
I am also the skipper of a Sea Scout ship. So that's like the scoutmaster for a scout troop. And
Yeah.
I needed to put some kits together for my ship. That's what the unit's called, is the ship.
Hmm.
And so I went and went to CVS or Walgreens or whatever, and I knew what I wanted to have in it. And when I put all that stuff together in the cart and looked at it, I was like, wait a second, this is going to be like $157. And it's not even everything. Like, I couldn't get all the stuff that I wanted.
Hmm.
It blew me away how expensive it is to go out, like expensive in a couple ways. So the time it took me to go to the local place, and then they didn't have everything I needed. So then I end up at Walmart, and I end up like
Hmm.
I'm bouncing around town to all the different places to try to get all the things that I want. And I
Yep.
didn't get it all. I ended up on Amazon trying to order some stuff. And then, at some point when I get everything put together, I'm like, all right, these are pretty cool kits. I like them. And then I'm looking at the price tag, and I'm looking at everything that's in it. And then I start shopping around, and I'm like, wait a second. I just spent twice as much as if I would have bought a kit that's put together like some of these kits that you offer. And it
Yep.
blew me away because I really didn't understand that. I don't know if it's the ability to buy in volume, the bulk buys, or
Hmm.
what it is that allows you and other brands like yours to be able to put together kits. And honestly, yours seem to be priced a little bit more, I'm going to call it aggressively, meaning, they're a little bit lower, like you're
Sure.
aggressively trying to get them in the hands of the customers like
Yep.
that. Than some of the other brands that we've seen and done reviews
Yeah.
on and that kind of thing. Um, but seriously, as cheap as I am, excuse me, as thrifty as I am,
There you go.
that's what I keep telling people. Um, I am at a point where it took that one experience of putting those together to learn me in a hurry. It isn't worth trying to do it yourself.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, you look at this, $215, $216. That's a lot of money for a backpack with medical stuff in it. But I guarantee you, if you go try and put this together yourself, not you, Zeph, but people listening, you're
Yep.
going to spend twice as much. And you're probably going to end up with some crap in there that is not vetted and, good product. So,
Yeah.
um, and that's crazy. This is the only space that I've found that to be true, because I'm a real
Yep.
hands-on, do-it-yourself kind of person. I
Hmm.
can save money and often time and end up with something better for less money on just about everything.
Yep.
Medical stuff, nope.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. We've actually done. We made a video doing this. I'm glad you said that, Jeff. And we took one of our kits off the shelf and figured out at Amazon time. This is a couple months ago. What the cost would be to
Yeah,
build that kit. Um, I'm pretty sure the cost per like at the kit level was about $10 more expensive than what we offer it. But to
yeah,
build it, you would have had to have spent $600 in supplies, because you have to, in order to be competitive on the pricing at the kit
yeah.
level, you have to buy, especially on personal consumer side, you have to buy things in bulk to be
Right?
able to do that. And I think which is really great is like, and you said it right there at the end, is you might be buying shit stuff. Like, it might
Yeah,
not be good, and your band-aids might stick on for 2 hours. I've used our and this bandages are a perfect example, because we've got this awesome new band-aid called Super Skin. It's got an amazing adhesive, crazy four-way stretch. It's just like super innovative in the band-aid world, and you
mm,
can tell I love the brand because I'm excited about freaking band-aids.
right.
But they're awesome, and I've had one on for up to 5 days.
Yeah,
um, so when you balance that with, again, you're going to spend more money than probably get lower quality supplies. And the reason we're able to do that is because of the volumes that we purchase in. We buy band-aids by the hundreds of thousands, right?
yeah,
Which allows our margin to be so much better. And it's just really crazy. And we've gone through every kit and looked at it at the per item level and been like, how can we make this better? And that's why you'll find in a lot of our first aid kits, we try to manufacture as many of those supplies as possible because that helps us keep costs down. And again, it all circles back. Yes, it's good for business, but it all circles back to our mission. We want to get as many of these into people's hands as possible. And the easiest and best way to do that, and the biggest barrier we always face, is price. So if we can bring price down as in many categories as possible, the better we can, fulfill our mission. So the bandages are ours, the gauze is manufactured by us, EMT shears. We're moving to do our own medications next year, which is a huge expense for us right now. A lot of the sprain and fracture stuff, we do our own splints. Like, we're to the point now where our first aid kits are, you open up any of our first aid kits on a given day, and this is, I will say, what I'm saying is definitely still subject to change based on supply chain. Especially
Sure.
we all know that now, like the medical world, and especially a lot of things are being made overseas. I'm going to
Yeah.
say it, and it's the truth. And we all found that out during COVID. But you open any of our kits on any given day, and 70% of that kit is going to be branded My Medic, that product inside, because we've gone that far to make it manufactured by us to keep costs low, so we can sell it at
Sure.
a lower price.
So this is neat. Just I'm clicking around while you're talking. This Recon first aid kit is the backpack that I had up a second ago, and
Yep.
it splays out so you can get to everything. Is there like an organizational philosophy to how these are in here?
Yep. So with our standard kits, again, so most of our kits will come in a standard version and a pro version. That standard version was what I like to call a boo-boo kit, right? That's going to cover your minor wounds, any minor wounds, very, very well. Once you graduate to the pro kit, which will be more expensive because trauma supplies cost more, you're going to have things like tourniquets, you're going to have hemostatic gauze, chest seals, pressure bandages, nasal pharyngeal airways. All of those items that you are going to need in the pro kits, things that are going to need to be used quickly to save life, are going to be more accessible. So as you're looking at that Recon Pro right there, that top pocket that you see flip down, most of your bleeding supplies are in, like your life-threatening bleeding supplies are in that front pocket on the outside. So you're able to get to your tourniquet and your packing gauze really quickly. So there is, not only have we tried to, think of everything at a per item level, but the organization of how we put things together, especially on the pro kits, because life-threatening bleeds need to be addressed as soon as possible. There has been a lot of thought put into where and how we build and put, stuff into the kits.
Yeah, I was not a combat medic, and I don't know that I've ever had my hands on an actual, military issue combat medic kit. But my understanding is they're organized like this, where, it's sectional based on what you're dealing with, like, and folks, hopefully take the time to familiarize themselves well enough and then periodically refresh on what is everything and where is it. So, when seconds count, they go to the right place at the right time to get the right stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. That's a really neat design. I've not seen a pack that opened up like that before. I've seen like a little a drop leg pouch or a molly pouch that you'd attach to something else that'll open, maybe fold open. But I hadn't seen a backpack that opens up the way this one does.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any others on the market. It's really nice, right? Like a lot of like hunting packs and backpacking packs will have that big horseshoe zipper on the front. And the idea here was kind of similar, but because it is that backpack's not very big. I mean, I put that on and I look like a little kid going to school with a little backpack. It's not a big backpack that
way. Yeah.
Because that back is so small, like a horseshoe zipper just doesn't make sense. So we were like, well, what if we just, took a normal backpack and took the zipper all the way to the floor, and that way the whole thing opens up. And again, when you're doing medical, like having access and being able to see everything that's in front of you and find what you need quickly is super, super helpful. So yeah, that backpack's really, really cool. And honestly, I have an empty one that I use for just random things, because it's somehow been like, every backpack should be like this. Like I should be able to get all the way to the bottom and pull things out.
Yeah, gotcha. What's what would you say are type of items for like Christmas gifts. What should
Yeah.
like I we're going to go to a big family get together in a geez, I was going to say in a few months. It's like in a month and a half
Hmm.
for extended family. If I want to say, you know what, I want to get each of them something to put in their car, what would be like a good option
Yeah.
for something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, even better, even better. I ask you and I'm going to cut you off immediately,
You're
but I
good.
thought of a better example even. That would be, well, we can answer that one. And then I'm going to ask you about, maybe it's the same thing. I got kids that are about to take off for college and I want to put something,
Hmm.
maybe in the dorm room with them,
Hmm.
or maybe something they carry in the car with them. So that gives us 2, 3 examples we could talk about. We kind of highlight some products.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So stop where you are.
Yeah.
To answer the first one, the car at the best price for value, bang for your buck is our Popular Mechanics kit, at least for the vehicle. That one we did and designed and constructed in conjunction with Popular Mechanics. Very well known automobile magazine. But that one has been designed specifically for most common car injuries, so upset stomach, people get motion sickness, that type of thing. There's a tourniquet in there, obviously, and things like that. But at the price point of that kit, you really can't beat it, in my opinion. It's super small. It can fit into a glove box if needed. Easily fits under a seat. Um, it's in a really awesome, coated TPU. So if anyone gets into some inclement weather or they need to get it, it's rainy on the side of the road, all your contents inside are going to be safe. It's got a seatbelt cutter window breaker in there, which we recommend taking out of the kit and making it a little bit more accessible. But a lot of people don't even have those in their
Sure.
cars, and you
Yeah.
definitely should have one. So that's an added bonus that's again specifically designed for the vehicle. That one's a really really good one. That'd be my recommendation for a vehicle, for like an everyday driver. If you do
Sure.
or
Are
know
these little
someone,
patches? Are
yep,
these like little Velcroed on patches? So as you organize the kit, you can label
yep,
what's in each section?
that's exactly what they are.
That's neat.
Yep. Um, General like daily driver type vehicle. This is absolutely my recommendation. If you've got someone who does, likes to, go off road or go camping out of their vehicle, maybe that's a little bit different of a conversation because this is kind of just it's very minimal that kit in terms of its
Sure.
coverage because it is so small. Uh, for example, what I run in my truck is and again, I have a truck, so I've got a lot of space in there. I have a MyFac large, which is up towards the top of the page, but it's a big, it's probably 14 inches by 8 inches by 5 inches deep. That one, um,
Hmm.
and I take that for a couple reasons. A lot of times, I'm very fortunate enough to go live out of my truck for 10, 14 days at a time, and I'm not within close range to a hospital. So having the capacity to take care of lots of minor stuff over and over and over again for me is really important. I'm also known as the first aid guy among my group of friends when we go camping. And
Right.
so they think that they can get away without bringing a first aid kit. So I usually am also
Oh
covering
yeah.
their asses. So having that extra capacity is really great. I also really like this full size because I can fit a full size splint in there. So, heaven forbid someone falls, breaks a, really sprains an ankle, breaks a leg, breaks an arm. I've got the capacity to stabilize that and get them to, next echelon of care. But that's a really great kit for off-roading, overlanding,
Wow. Yeah.
camping types, and we have that kit in a smaller version that is just as easy to store um, in a vehicle. Any questions before I go to the college question?
No, just scrolling through
Cool.
to get a look at everything that's in there real quick. Cool.
Yeah, that one's a really good one. And we
Yep.
yeah we have, again we have that as a standard and a pro on that one. So college is an interesting it's an interesting viewpoint. Um, I would say it kind of depends on what that person's preferences are. Um, we have kits that look very kind of tactical, if you want to call it that. They've got the Velcro
Yeah.
Molly, they've got the that type of thing. If that's not that person's kind of preference or aesthetic, or they want it to be a little more fit into their lifestyle, this might stand out in a college campus if you've got it on a
Yeah.
your backpack. So if you want to go to that, the top of the website, first aid kits. So we've got a
Mhm.
collection on the drop down. We've got a collection called the Ready Collection. Um, so yeah, down there at the bottom.
Mhm.
So any one of those is fine. But basically,
Yeah.
these are all going to be standard versions of our kits. So we don't offer these in any pro variants currently. So none of them are going to come with tourniquets or any of the life saving stuff. But the design on these was very much in mind of that like younger generation, college. Maybe they live in a very urban setting, or they just don't really relate to that kind of tactical look. But we
Sure.
still want to have them covered with an awesome first aid kit. So that was kind of what these were designed for. So if your college student is that type of person and they don't necessarily associate with firearms and tactical, this is a really great option. Still, it's very unassuming. We saw it a couple different sizes, so it easily fits into a backpack or in the dorm room. Obviously, space is limited. So that's a really great option for that. But again, if they do like the tactical stuff, then obviously we can do that all day. But the Ready
Yeah.
collection was
Yeah.
kind of our step in that direction to take care of those who maybe don't associate with that.
I'll be interested to see what my kids do because all three of them are lifeguards and they're used to carrying like a little fanny pack with some like absolute emergency, got to have it
Hmm.
on you type stuff. So
Hmm.
it'll be interesting to see if they start, if they're carrying a backpack at school, if they slap
Yeah.
a little kit on them on a molly strap or something. So
Hmm.
we shall see. But
That's cool.
yeah, that looks like a nice little compact little option
Yeah,
in
definitely.
the ready
I'm
every day.
I'm glad you brought up fanny packs. So all of our tactical looking bags, they have
Mhm.
they have a tearaway molly strap in the back. So if you had it hooked up to a molly panel, it rips off. But behind that on the kit, there's actually a hidden strap that you can wear basically all of our first aid kits now as a fanny pack or an over the shoulder sling. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, that type of thing. So that way, if you need to be mobile with it, you can do that. I think we show it really well on the MyFac large product page, I want to say. Um, Not 100% sure. Maybe, yeah, go through a couple of those pictures.
I love the
Maybe I'm
organization
wrong.
that you can see here.
Yes. That was a new feature for these are kind of the new updated version of our first aid kits that we
Mhm.
released. Maybe it's not on this one. But yeah, I'm trying to think of where there might be one. Sidekick, maybe. Um, but a lot of the first aid kits, used to be this kind of like trifold design,
Mm.
like typical like military pouch style with like a little fold out wing that came out the tail end. We've kind of shifted to kind of like it opens like a page. Oh yeah, there you go. In that second one there. So yeah, all of them have a hidden strap behind them. So you can
Huh,
sling it. You could do it as a fanny pack.
that's neat.
So you can be really mobile with it. But a lot of the first aid kits now, like I was saying, that we produce have a page design. So you open it up and it reads left to right. Um, especially in the pro kits, again, you're going to have the most immediate needs on your left. We read left to right, at least most of us.
Uh-huh.
And so you can kind of scan it. And if you don't need anything there, you just flip the page that's in the middle, and then you're off to your less important stuff on that back side
Huh.
of the book. Yeah.
That's something else. I love the tearaway um, because I mean it. I've been fortunate. I've not had to do a lot of treatment like in the field where
Hmm.
things are happening fast and people are freaking out, and you're the adrenaline's pumping and your fine motor skills aren't working that well. I haven't had to
Yeah.
deal with that, but I can certainly envision. Um, well, great. It's going to take me 3 minutes to unweave the molly straps and get this thing off of my bag so that I can hand it to someone.
Yep.
So
Yep.
to be able to just kind of rip and go is pretty cool. So I
Yeah.
like that.
Yep. Very
Yeah,
cool.
very, very well
Uh,
thought out.
yeah, we put a lot of time into those. The pouches we were using before were not very original. They were very, kind of what everyone was doing. So when we had the opportunity to kind of revamp it and make it our own, we really listened to a lot of customer feedback and kind of just, had a great designer at the time. And so he saw a lot of the flaws and, we wanted to make it better.
Yeah. So you want to talk about, there was a comment before where G23, he said FSA. I think he was talking about the HSA rather. The idea that this type of product you can pay for out of a healthcare savings account.
Yep. So HSA and FSA, actually, we accept both of those.
Got it.
Which is great. So yeah, if you have a health savings account or a flexible spending account, I've never had one, but I've heard it enough, especially when I was working in customer service. That money, goes away at the end of the year. It's a kind of a use it or lose it type thing, to my understanding. So I would say about 95% of the products that we have on our website are all are HSA, FSA eligible. So you can spend those dollars on the website. The only thing that is excluded from that is they don't really count like survival-y type items. So we do have our own survival kit. We've got, Leatherman multi-tools and that type of thing, like paracord and chem lights. Those aren't classified and eligible through HSA, FSA, but any of the true medical stuff absolutely will be. So it's a great way to use that up at the end of the year.
Nice. All right. That'll probably be a good time to remind the audience, we've seen lots of great comments, lots of I love my medic kits type comments. If you have any thoughts or questions, anything, now will be the time to submit those. My only complaint with the My Medic kits is they should include instructions on how to get it all fit back in the bag neatly like they ship it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, that was the gun snob that said that.
Yeah,
so you got to take it with a grain of salt.
That's Kent for you. I mean,
yeah.
No, what I'll say is I think he has one of our, because he's an affiliate of ours as well. I think he has one of our older kits, and that was definitely a problem. The new version, that was something we took and wanted to make better. So we've taken that, and a lot of the newer kits are much easier to reassemble after disassembly. They've got a little bit extra room in there, and again, that page design just really helps with the organization and being able to fit things back in.
Yeah, and where was the picture? Like, all right, work with me here, mouse. Like this, I would think this would really help make it easier in that you've color coded it, and now you have little indicators. Your blue airway, your yellow for meds, and red for blood stuff, and whatever the other ones are.
Yeah,
it's already marked there, so you know where to put it back because you have a little bit of an indication there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think something that's really important, you kind of touched on it earlier, Jeff, is we absolutely want you to get your first aid kit and become familiar with it. Part of the reason why the name of the company is My Medic is because we want it, when you think of it, we want it to be yours. So we put things together in a way that we think makes sense, given our experience in the field. And through our expertise with our director of education and CEO who used to be EMT, etc. By all means, like when your kit shows up, we want you to tear that bad boy apart, and you should know everything that's in there, where it is, and then if you think there's somewhere better for it, absolutely you should do that. And it's all going to fit in there if it came that way. If you want to rearrange it in a way that's logical for you, you absolutely should do that if it's going to make you more efficient when those fine motor skills go away in an emergency.
Yeah. Survival kit looks pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's something we're hoping to expand in the next couple years. Kind of that survival type mentality. Our bread and butter's always been first aid kits, but we saw a need, and there's some really good survival kits out there on the market, and I think what's really great for us is, and in my experience with survival kits that I've bought in the past, the part that really typically lacks is the first aid kit. It's usually pretty so-so. So we've been, really fortunate enough to be able to put together an awesome survival kit that also has, some pretty kick-ass first aid in it as well, and kind of stands apart from the rest of the competition.
I've had a variety of survival kits that mostly stuff that brands have sent, and I'll tell you, some of them I have declined to actually do the review. I've said, hey, if you want it back, send me a return shipping label, but this isn't worth the time for me to review it.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about out in the market, a lot of first aid kits are crap. Survival kits, I have found to be like, this is a, if you think you're going to depend on this to keep you alive, you're going to be dead kit is what I would call
Yeah.
most of them. And
Hmm.
this looks like it's got good quality products, the right type of products. And I think that what I've seen more than anything is not most survival kits don't have the right stuff, and the stuff they have is just garbage. Like
Yeah.
it's not going to work. You're going to try to use their fake little Leatherman thing, and it's going to snap in half first time you try to use it. You
Yeah.
put any pressure on it, it's done.
Yeah.
Or it's just not the right stuff. So it's nice to see one where as I'm looking through here and thinking, okay, let's say I'm in a survival situation, what do I want? It's got a lot of good stuff in here. And I think the one that I've appreciated the most in different med kits and survival kits that I've looked at is the bottom right corner here. Um, Not everyone studies their survival manual periodically to be sure they're up on everything before they go out in the field. So to have
Yep.
a quick reference there,
Hmm.
the Stay Alive guide, I think, is very aptly described for what I want. I mean, I've not seen what's
Yeah.
in that guide, but just that idea, that's what I
Hmm.
want in a survival kit is,
Yeah.
not just the stuff, but some hints on, hey, you're probably freaking out, here's
Yeah.
something to refocus you on the things you need to do, to prioritize to preserve life instead of expending a lot of time and energy and effort and maybe consuming some resources and then realizing you did the wrong thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think the survival kit market's really interesting too, because it's really hard to make, at least in my opinion, a survival kit for like a very universal survival kit, because people who live in Alaska are going to need a much different looking survival kit than someone who lives in Arizona where I grew up, right? And I
Yeah.
think we've tried to kind of marry all this stuff together, but at some point there has to be some level of personalization that you put into your survival kit. The same way I think there has to be some level of personalization that you put into your first aid kit, whether it's reorganizing it or adding certain things that make sense for you, um, to be specific to your needs and the things that you like to do. Our first aid kits and our survival kits are really, really, really good jumping off point, but it should always be specifically tailored for things that you're going to run into, things that you like to do. I think at least that's always been my mantra about it.
Yeah. Here's something we hadn't talked about is G23 onto something here with online, some sort of online resource for the kits?
Yeah, yeah, we do. It's really great, and it's something that we're actually expanding. So right now, online, we offer a March training class. So that's taught by our director of education, special operations combat medic. So March is basically the algorithm that the Army uses to basically prioritize injuries. So M is massive bleeding, A is airway, R is respirations, C is circulation, and H is hypothermia/head injury. So it's kind of an
Mhm.
algorithm you can use when there's a traumatic injury. You might be best searching it, Jeff, and that should pull it up for you. If you just search March, I think it should come up. But that's been
Search up
really
here.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. Um, so we sell the course by
Training.
itself, and it might. Yeah, I wonder if they pulled it down for some reason. We sell the course by itself, but we also include it with the purchase of any pro kit. So it's a significant value. You're already buying an
Interesting.
expensive first aid kit. We want to bring some added value to you, especially if you are buying that pro kit. A lot of people maybe don't. Yeah, they must not have it on the website right now for whatever reason.
Okay.
But I think at full retail, it's like $150 if you wanted to just buy
Hmm.
the course. But again, if you buy a pro first aid kit, which the lowest price point on a pro first aid kit, I believe, is $200. So you really get a lot of value out of that. But it's basically broken up into 5 segments, where Billy goes through that algorithm and how to apply a tourniquet, when and how to apply a tourniquet, I should say, how to pack a wound, how to apply a chest seal, really just like the absolute basics must knows for traumatic injuries, life saving. That's where
Right.
most people are going to struggle and not, have those skills. Obviously, we'd love to do as many in-person classes as we could, but virtually that's the best way for us to reach people. So we have that course available right now. And what's really great is, and you'll like this, in the next 4 weeks, probably sooner, we're going to have a full, 18 module gunshot wound course available.
Nice.
It's going to come at a really, really, premium price point because we spent a lot of time and money making that really awesome. I mean, we'd go through, different types of ballistics, hollow point versus FMJ, really got into some nitty gritty stuff with Billy on that. And we're really excited to bring that to market because there's not, at least from what I've seen, a lot of not necessarily accredited, but, a lot of digital courses on that topic, like full courses with checks on learning and quizzes and things that you actually have to do to prove that you're learning and not just watching a video, available on the market that specifically goes over gunshot wounds. So we're really excited to bring that to market, and I think it's going to help a lot of people, especially people in your audience, the firearms community. It's going to be awesome. We're really, really excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So we're at the time of year, and I am watching the clock, and I know you were looking to cut out in an hour. So
I've got a little time. I'm in no rush, Jeff.
Okay, good. I was hoping that my earlier technical difficulties weren't going to disrupt things too much. We're getting to the time of the year where the big sales are happening. And I see you've got a section up here just for the big Black Friday blockbuster sales. Anything you want to point out? Like what's a bit? Okay, here's the
March course.
Yeah,
weird that it wasn't searchable.
Yeah. So, anything you want to call out here? Like, I couldn't believe when they told us to mark it down this much. That kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of the survival supplies right now are up to 50% off. So if you've got some, want to beef up some of your survival kits, that's a really great thing. What's really cool this year, and I'll leave it as like kind of suspenseful, but we're starting some daily deals starting on Monday. So those will be available basically from 6 Eastern to midnight Eastern. Just for that day, and those will be certain items will be significantly discounted, higher than usual. But this is this is the doorbusters, like kind of blockbusters, section. So all these are heavily discounted right now. The survival kit's a great one. The March training's really great. If you've got a wife or your wife's a mother, we've got a Mastering Medical Emergencies course. So that's taught by one of our brand partners. Her name's Shan Tripp. She's a pediatric ER nurse of 10 years. So she put together a digital course that we're able to sell for her as well, and through her, basically on how to treat medical emergencies at home with small children. So really just kind of help have like a nurse in your pocket type experience for moms to feel empowered at home, or just caretakers in general, I should say. It doesn't necessarily have to be moms. There's plenty of stay-at-home dads, single dads that could benefit from that course, and just feel confident to help a child who may be choking, or know when a fever is to a point where you need to go to the hospital, or infection, or kind of some of those minor things. But again, we want to empower people to feel confident in their ability to save life and master and treat emergencies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because as a parent, I can tell you one of the more terrifying things in your life is when you leave the hospital with an infant and realize, oh no, we got to keep this kid alive ourselves now. Good thing kids are resilient, but I think that those type of moments really crystallize how unprepared most people are.
Sure.
So that could be a great resource.
Yeah, and she kind of has a similar story to us, not near as tragic, but she basically was, at a restaurant one day having, family dinner, and her son started choking. And luckily she had already been trained. She'd been a nurse at that point for a while, so she knew exactly what to do. But it was still scary for her, and she realized, there's so many moms and parents out there who maybe would have just frozen, not had any idea what to do. So she wanted to, basically become an educator in that space, and spread that education and get it out into people's hands. So
Sure. Yeah. Excellent.
yeah.
All right.
The
You
only other
said
thing
those are
I would
starting
mention,
Monday. Okay.
yeah, the daily deals are starting Monday. The only couple other things I would mention about the sale, the new first aid kits, like I said, we released those in end of August. This is the first time they've been discounted. So they're 20% off the new ones, and then we've got some really screaming deals on some of the older ones that will be coming out. And then all orders over $100, you'll be getting a free bivy. So that's a $25 bivy, basically a mylar sleeping bag in high vis orange. So that's really helpful if you got patient with hypothermia, or throw it in your hunting pack if you're going hunting late season and temperatures can get really cold. You name it, that's a really great one. And then a 30 pack of our blister tape is another one of those free gifts. So you get both of those, which is roughly, I think, like $40 of stuff that you'll get for free with orders over 100. And those blister tapes are really great. They're made of that super skin material I was talking about earlier, with really awesome up to 5-day adhesive, super flexible, and just really versatile. I've used them obviously for blisters, but I've used them to repair like holes in my puffy jackets.
Sure.
Use them as pasties when I'm feeling spicy, you name it.
That's good. This show goes off the rails regularly. So it's I've been trying to play nice here, and when we have brands on, I try to not go there. So you kind of brought us back to our roots at this week at Gear Report with that type of comment. All right. Good stuff. All right. G23 is ready to buy stuff, apparently. He says, take my money. So
yeah, I mean, you want to go get something, go get it now, but I'd wait till Monday, because that's when the getting gets good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate. I already knew a fair amount about the brand from talking to you and the other folks that were in the booth at SHOT Show. Geez, that was what, 10 or 11 months ago, 10 months ago at this point.
You're coming again next year, I'm assuming?
I assume so. Yeah. We haven't booked anything yet, which is bizarre. Normally we would have booked our travel by now, but we had a couple guys that were on the fence. Well, I want to go, but I'm not sure. And I think I'm drawing the line in about a week and saying, all right, he who is left on the list is going. Anyone else? You just missed your shot.
Yeah.
Take my money comment was about the gunshot training. Yeah. Well, that makes sense, because someone's going to shoot G23. I guarantee you. Yeah. Yep. You definitely need the training, brother. So, good. So we'll look forward to that new training rolling out whenever it is they have that ready to release.
Hopefully by end of year.
Anything else you want to mention before we check out?
No, I just, super appreciative of your time and, the willingness to have me on the show. I know we've been trying to schedule this for a while now, and kind of just fell through the cracks with the craziness of the year and life. But yeah, super grateful for you guys. And whatever you do, guys, just if you're listening, please, doesn't have to be from us. I prefer it be from us. Have life-saving first aid gear, at within arm's reach, as often as you can, because emergencies and accidents happen, and we want to help and save as many lives as possible. Get trained, know your equipment, stay vigilant, and be ready.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with all of that. And especially, make sure you get good stuff, because there are a lot of areas where I am perfectly okay with just give me the Chinese copy, whatever. This ain't it,
Yeah.
And I've bought enough and reviewed enough and have my hands on enough different kits to know you are only going to see a couple different companies on this show in your niche. You know, I probably know 30 different companies that make med kits. I can think of 2 or 3 that we would have on to talk about their products, and that's
Yeah.
it, because
Yeah.
there really is a huge drop off when you go from someone who designs and builds kits with a purpose versus what most of them, it's just commodity stuff that they slap a brand name on, and
Yeah.
they don't even know what's in it half the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, get the good stuff, get trained on it. And then I think kind of the third prong of that is it doesn't help if you can't get to it. So and I'm not trying to sell product here. I'm trying to be sure that people think about, you know, so you got a crazy good kit in your car. Well, that's awesome. But when you get out of the car and you're going on a day hike that's a couple miles into the woods, what, you're going to run back to the car when you've had, you know, a problem, and you're going to bleed out before you get to the car, you know,
Yeah.
like have something that you can take with you
Yep.
wherever it is that you're going.
Yeah. Build in redundancies into your life, especially when it comes to first aid. You know, I've got the first aid kit in the car, got one at home, I've got one in my day pack for hiking, got one in my hunting pack, I've got one that sits right next to my firearm when I'm, you know, everyday carrying, just going to work,
Yeah.
and that type of thing. So doesn't have to be a full-blown kit, but man, at the very least, have the life-saving stuff.
Sure.
You know, you can get by with a scraped elbow. You can't get by with you know, an amputation below the elbow. That's not happening. So just have that life-saving stuff always.
Okay, so now it's time to thank everyone. So Zeph, thanks for coming. Thank the folks at your company for providing you as a resource.
Of course.
We appreciate you being here. Thanks to Maxim Defense Industries, the sponsor of this week at Gear Report, for underwriting some of the things that we need to be able to present this show every week. So, reminder to everyone, we are on every Thursday evening. We start at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We are on, I don't even know how many places we are right now. I think we're probably live on about 6 different places, from YouTube to Facebook to a couple different YouTubes, a couple different Facebooks, Twitch, Twitter. I don't even remember where else. We're all over the place. Oh, and that reminds me, I wanted to tell people I have created the Gear Report family of places within Rumble, and am waiting for them to import the full catalog of videos for the main Gear Report channel, for our new guitar Gear Report, camping Gear Report, Gear Report firearms. I've got a couple more in the wings that we may launch soon, like Gear Report Humvee channel for the military vehicles. Gear Report sailing, that's another one that I haven't actually started rolling any videos for either of those out yet, because my ADD doesn't always win. Sometimes I do control it and limit things. But so check us out in the next week or two. All of those have been created on Rumble. You can see, you know, we have no activity because they literally said, it's thank you for requesting that we import your catalog. It can take anywhere from several hours to a few weeks. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but we're going to be on Rumble as well. If anyone has thoughts on other platforms we should be on, definitely let us know. We'll look to get there as well. And so, you know what? I can get that thing off the screen. I think we'll stop sharing that. Here's what we do to wrap up the show. It's cheesy, okay? But that's how we are. We always do this. And you're not required to do it, by the way. I did have someone at one point, I said, here's what we do. And he just looked at the camera and he said, dude, I'm not doing that. I said, hey, you do you, whatever. But it's tradition. We point at the camera and we'll say, until next week, we'll see you at the range.
Until next week, we'll see you at the range.
Well done.